friends and family, thank you guys so much for joining Every Day is a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey guys, got another great interview today. I hope you guys are ready for this. He is an Army veteran. He served from 1998 to 2021. He started off as a fueler, ended his career as a recruiter. His name is Jeff Frazier. Let's go ahead and bring him on in. What's going on, Jeff? How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Can't complain, man. I appreciate you joining us. We'd love to learn and get to know Jeff Frazier, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like why, what made you join the Army, what you did in the Army, and kind of what happened after you got out of the Army.
All right, I will give you guys the nickel tour. So, as you said, my name's Jeff Frazier. I was born and raised in Decatur, Illinois, which is known for two things: soybean capital of the world, and it's the original home of the Chicago Bears. But yeah, I joined the Army in May of 1998. My family, my dad and my uncles, all of them were in the military in one form or another. So my dad was an Army guy. My dad was a little old. He was born in 1928, so he was in right post World War II. But he was
Wow.
Army, and then I had an uncle, Clarence, who was in the Navy, and then my uncle Lyle was actually started in the Army and was in to do the transition. So he joined the Army and retired out of the Air Force. So it was the Army Air Corps, and made that switch. So it was just natural for me to jump in and pick one. And since my dad was in the Army, that's the way I decided to go. So
Nice. So, what you ended up joining in '98? Where did you go to boot camp?
So yeah, okay. I'll give you the Army story. We did pre-Army. We'll do kind of during. I
Sure.
joined in '90, and I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, for basic training, and then I went to my job training, AIT in the Army. We called it Advanced Individual Training at Fort Lee, Virginia. For at the time it was 77 Fox, which is Petroleum Supply Specialist, and then it transitioned to 92 Fox while I was in. So I did that from '98 till 2011. And then I got an email saying, "Hey, you want to go be a recruiter?" And I said, "No, not really." They said, "Well, you're not going to get a choice." So I joined. I started recruiting in 2011. I was a recruiter in Brandon, Florida, which is right outside of Tampa. And then I decided to change over full time to do recruiting because they give you that option. So the next level up from that is a station commander. So you're basically running a recruiting station. It's so funny when you're on recruiting, it's as a detailed recruiter, and you're actually, they say a recruiter, but then when you actually change your job, the job title is 79 Romeo recruiter, but you don't recruit anymore. You're running a recruiting station. So I ran a recruiting station in Miami, North Miami Beach, and then I was a first sergeant, and I ran a company in San Diego. So that's kind of the nickel tour. Some highlights of my career prior to recruiting. Cobra Gold 99 I went to, which is in Thailand. That is good duty. It's awesome. If you guys ever get a chance, anybody who's thinking about joining or in, I definitely recommend hitting that up. I did a year in 6 months in Honduras, um, which is interesting. We have a base down there, Savannah Air Base, which it's Joint Task Force Bravo. It's basically the closest thing we have to the Panama Canal. So they send us down there for 6 months. 6 month rotation, so you're TDY the whole time, so that's lovely. Did a year in Korea in between those two, and then in '03 when Iraqi freedom and when everything kicked off, I did 3 tours in Iraq, 6 month, a 12 month, and a 15 month, and then I did one in Afghanistan to close it out in 2011, and that's kind of the highlights.
Wow. Nice, man. So, being a recruiter, let's talk a little bit about that
Yes.
and how
Okay.
that all worked out. How long were you a recruiter now?
So I was from 2011, I'd say late 2011, which they send you to. It's called the ARC, the Army Recruiting Course, and it's about 5 or 6 weeks where they give you the basics of recruiting. So I recruited from 2011 till I retired. My retirement date's July 31st, 21. So I recruited. I basically served at all levels there as a detailed recruiter, and then, as I said, I ran a recruiting station, and then as a first sergeant. So it's a challenging. It is a challenging job, but I tell you what, it's the people. The people make it challenging, if that makes sense.
The people that are joining, or the government people?
A combination of both. So, in the issue with recruiting, and I would say all military recruiting, um, just because I'm familiar with the other side too. My wife is in the Navy, and she was a Navy recruiter, so I'm kind of familiar with a variety of the sides. But the issue we have, and the military can say all they want that it's not sales, but this is a sales job. You are selling, in my case, the Army. You are selling the military. The problem with that is we are not commission based. You go to a real estate agent or somebody buying a car or something, they are commission based. So you are
Yeah.
incentivized financially to do your job. When you get a bunch of salary guys out there in an office together, and 90% of them don't want to be there anyway, they want to be back in the operational Army, it makes it a challenge. It is very challenging on that front, which is one of the reasons they called it converted or reclassed. I changed my job to be a recruiter. It's because it is a challenging job. It's extreme. It will test you mentally. And then it's just that the leadership aspect of it is crucial, especially running a station, to to get these to get these guys motivated to go out there, put their best foot forward, and really sell the Army and why people should join. And then you just take it the next level. You're a first sergeant. And then that's kind of, I had 71 NCOs, which that makes the higher echelons a challenge because you're not dealing with privates. There's no E1 to E4. Every recruiter out there is a sergeant or above. They are non-commissioned officers. And when you're dealing with 70 of them in a company, it's challenging. You got to do evaluations on all of them. And it's just getting that motivation piece through, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, did they have quotas? I mean, I imagine they have quotas. Like, kind of, what was like your quotas and stuff? Like, it was like a monthly thing that you guys had to meet, or how did that all work out?
Okay. So they don't call it a quota, they call it a mission, right? You have a mission. So prime example, I'll give you a kind of a rundown of different locations so you can know. When I was a detailed recruiter, I was in Brandon, Florida, in the Brandon recruiting station, and there was about 14 or 15 recruiters in there, and our monthly mission ranged from 12 to 20. Now, the way the Army does it, at the beginning of the year, we get our annual mission. Okay. So let's say, like as a company, my mission was 650 active duty and 150 reserves. So we get mission at the beginning of the year. Now they break that down into quarterly and monthly. And what they do is they like to front load the mission, meaning the first quarter is always going to be bigger than fourth quarter, and they'll kind of go through the metrics on that to break it down. But basically, your annual even flow is called your glide path. So you kind of want to stay on glide, but you will have there will be a noticeable difference from your first quarter mission into your fourth quarter mission. And then the way the mission is broken down is it's broken down by what you score on the test, the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's the test you take to get in. So we are mandated by Congress that a certain percentage of people that join the military score a 50 or above, and we would call those alphas. So that's an A. You get an A and a B. A B is 31 to 49, alpha 50 and up. So the way we are missioned is so a high school graduate with higher than 50 is a GA, okay, a grad alpha. And then a high school graduate that is 31 to 49 is a grad bravo. then you have seniors. The Army's big push is to put seniors in from high school. And the reason there's a push for that is they've done all the research. They tend to do better. They tend to get in less trouble when they join at that younger age. So that is a coveted category there, a senior, which is an S, a senior alpha, so an SA. So a monthly mission for a normal recruiting station would probably consist of 6 GAs and then maybe 4 SAs, so senior alphas. And then you have another category, which would be called others. And we may be missioned for 6 or 7 others, which is basically your grad bravos, your senior bravos, anybody that does not meet some educational requirement, or, that would fall into that others category, to include prior service. If we had somebody that was a prior Navy or Marine and they wanted to join, we would, no matter what they scored on the test, we would get other credit for that. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how the missioning works. You can always exceed the mission, though. It's not like they're going to stop you. If you're at 20 and they're like, hey, they always want more, because somebody is going to miss it. So that's in a nutshell.
Do you guys have a little bit of like a trick where you're kind of hitting over your mission? So you're like, maybe we kind of save these 2 for next month or whatever, because we're over, so we can kind of get, our start hitting our next mission for the next month. Or do you guys just take them as soon as you can?
I mean, we do that so much. We have a term for it. It's called sandbagging. So what you'll do is, if you're having a good month and you hit your mission, and we've got some people ready to go, the recruiting month for the Army is called a phase line. Okay, that's what we call it. They always begin on a Friday and they always end on a Thursday. And if you are in a company or a station or something that's doing really well, it's very coincidental that on the Friday, which is the first day of the phase line, they may have nothing for that Monday or Thursday, but they got 5 projections, which is what we call it when we send somebody down to join. They'll have 5 people on Friday, but they won't have nothing Monday through Thursday because they already made it. Or they made a tactical decision. Hey, I'm going to miss my mission anyway. I might as well just take this butt chewing and then let's start out the next month good. But yes, they do that monthly, quarterly. Every echelon does that, monthly, quarterly, and annually. It's so bad, actually, at the company levels. So like as a company, that normally at the end of the year, the recruiting year ends on 1 October is the beginning of the new year, right? So the recruiting year will end sometime the end of September in there on a Thursday. It's so bad that what they will do is what they'll do is they will say, okay, for this 2-week period, we're going to give you double credit for contracts, meaning we will count them for last year and this year, because they know if a company is either doing really good or really bad, either they've already made it or they're going to miss it by a mile. They're going to make adjustments to put themselves on the best foot forward going into that next year. So yes, that is prevalent.
Now, do they give you guys any kind of bonuses or anything like that, or not?
We don't know. We are not incentivized financially at all. At least when I was in, I know they're talking about bringing something back to paying for, performance, but we were incentivized with, there's different forms of incentivization. I don't think it's a word, but different forms to incentivize people. They have formal awards like the command. They'll give you station of the month, station of the quarter, company, blah, blah, recruiter, whatever. So they formally, acknowledge you at that point. But that's on the leaders on the actual recruiting stations. So an example of how I would incentivize recruiters is, if I'm a station commander and I got a hard charger that is putting in 2 or 3 a month, I really don't care when that guy comes to work or if he comes to work, as long as he's checking in with me, because the number one thing I can incentivize them with is time. I can give them their time, and I can let them make their own. If you're producing, I'm not going to detract you. Now, that causes some bad blood with other recruiters, but I mean, at the end of the day, hey, if you do what this NCO does, you can have the same thing. If he's going to write 3 a month and you're going to write 0, you're not going to get treated the same. You're going to get treated fair, but fair and equal are 2 different things, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you got any good recruiting stories though? I mean, there's got to be some kind of good stories of some recruits or something.
Yeah, I mean, God, there's so well, I've got some sad stories. There is some pretty sad stories. When I was in Miami with a station commander, as a station commander, I mean, a lot of these young kids, they don't really go to the doctor how they should be. You know what I'm saying? So the way we've had a couple people test HIV positive that had no idea that they call us, and we know, and we have to take them to MEPS, which is Military Interest Processing Station. That's where everybody joins. Like, we take them there for them to get that news, and then we are taking them home. So it is it's crazy. I mean, I've had people that they get a drug and alcohol test at MEPS. I've had people test positive for cocaine going into MEPS. I've had people drunk going into MEPS. I mean, you name it, we've had it. You name it, we have had it. People, when we not only do the enlistment portion, but when they go to ship out, we take them, they go back through the physical to go get looked at. And then, MEPS takes it from there. They give them a plane ticket and they send them on their way to the airplane. We've had people drop them off at MEPS, and then I'm getting a phone call at 6:00 in the morning. Where they at? They left. They call it elope. They eloped from the hotel, like they left. So We've had people get all the way to the airport and then leave.
They changed their mind, man. Get that cold feet, huh?
I mean, yeah, and then it's every day. I'm not going to say this is a good thing about recruiting, but you never go through the exact same scenario twice because you're dealing with people. So everyone is just a little bit different. We've had females that go down to MEPS and find out they're pregnant, and then some are elated and some are just absolutely destroyed. So it's never the same thing twice. But on the good, there's way more pluses than minuses, because in Miami, we were a lot of impoverished communities down there, and putting young men and women in the military and have them totally changing their lives is an amazing thing. And then not only that, but in Tampa, Florida, and Brandon, we would deal with, the higher income communities. And then you're dealing with parents. Case in point, we put in a young man who wanted to join the Army. He wanted to go be an Army Ranger. He had a full ride scholarship to college to play some sport. And I had no idea that this kid had any of that stuff, right? So we had him bring his parents in to talk to us. So the mom and dad come in, and I introduce myself. Hey, I'm Sergeant Frazier. You know what I'm saying? Nice to meet you. And the dad just went in on me, like just out of the blue. I had no clue what was going to happen. He's like, he was like, what would you do if you had a kid that was going to give away a full ride scholarship? That's pretty stupid, isn't it? And just, so you just never know what get coming. You never know what's going to happen or what comes in that door.
Hey, man, that guy could have went to West Point or something, though, and played.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was a high school senior. So, that I don't know if he was, qualified on that level, but, as a senior, his mom and dad are clearly thinking one thing and we're thinking another. So
now
it is what it is.
As recruiters, do you guys only deal with the enlisted side, not the officer side? How does the officer side actually work and stuff like that? They just, after they go to school, they seek recruiters out, or is there a different process if you're going to be an officer?
Yes, we do OCS. So we do OCS recruiting. If they come in with a bachelor's degree, that is a requirement. Anybody that comes in with a bachelor's degree, we have to pitch OCS to them. Now, that is a much more extensive process. They have to go, they go through the test, the medical stuff. But once they get physically qualified and test qualified, we put together the packet. Once we put that together, that gets it. These things change throughout the years and things. So what I'm giving you now may not be the process now, but used
Right.
to be. They would go to battalion board. Okay, so they would sit a lieutenant colonel, and then there would be a minimum of 3 officers on there, and they would go through a board process and get evaluated. If they were approved, and selected, then they would commission, would sit down, they would join and go that way. And but it's sometimes that goes all the way up to our highest command, which is USAREC, depending on how many officers they need. But the officer side is a joint mission. We do the OCS, we facilitate that. In conjunction with that, you also have the green to gold and then the ROTC in the colleges. So we all share in that mission, if that makes sense. But yes, we do officers. Now, we don't do medical officers. All right. The Army has within USAREC, which is United States Army Recruiting Command, they have an entire program called AMED, which is the medical recruiters. They are all over the United States. Our need is so big that they decided to create basically an entire separate command that all they do is find medical officers. And that can take a year, 2 years to put one of those in. I'm not really familiar on that side of the program, but yes, it is that is an entirely separate command. It's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, my gosh. So let me ask you. Now, when it came to having these guys come in and stuff like that, now is there guys that you like pretty much tell them like you're not going to make it right off rip, or is there, or do you kind of like entertain everybody? I know with the Army too. You don't have to have a diploma, right? You can have a GED. Is that correct? Because I
Yes.
know in the Marine Corps, you
Yes.
cannot. I know you cannot have a GED.
So let me go into that. Let me preface this conversation by saying we have something in USAREC that we have our doctrine, right? We have our regulations and we have our manuals. Okay. So a regulation and a manual are two different things. Okay. So a regulation tells you what you can and can't do. It tells you what you're going to get in trouble for. And a manual tells you how to. All right. So the difference is regulations are punitive in nature. All right. Now, the problem in USAREC is we have these wonderful things called USAREC messages, and they will post 100 of these messages a year. And what they do is change the rules, meaning what's allowed in and what's not. So today a GED could join, tomorrow maybe not. But to get into the GED, yes, we will take a GED if they score a higher than a 50 on the test. So they have a GED and they score higher than a 50, they're good to go. Now, for what you said, and the GEDs, you tend to do better on the ASVAB, because if they have a GED, what's a GED do? It's a test, right?
Right.
So they're test prepping to get the GED, so they tend to do better on the test. Now, to answer your question, do we ever have someone come in and say, oh, you ain't going to make it? We cannot do that. We are not allowed to do that. If somebody is physically, mentally, morally, if they are qualified to join, it is not, that's not on me. I process qualified people regardless of what I think, because at the end of the day, what do I know? You know what I'm saying? What do I know if they're going to make it? Now, I can have intuition. I can help them when it comes to recommending jobs on what I think they should take. But at the end of the day, that's on them to choose. So no, we do not have the ability to say, hey, this person's not going to make it. I can give recommendations, but not to actually make the definitive call. Now, I'll tell you this, the Marine Corps operates slightly different in that, because in the Army, when they join, we get credit for that contract, right? So like our mission, the day they join, we get credit for that, for them joining. That goes towards that month. The Marine Corps is a little different. The Marines don't get credit until they graduate training, if that makes sense. So they are a little bit more, if they come in with somebody that's not going to make it, they will do a little bit more thorough evaluation. There'll be more hoops to jump through because it's not in their interest to send somebody that they know is not going to make it. And then at the end of the day, that's kind of a bad look on them to do that. But
Send it back. Yeah.
we do not have that luxury. Yeah, we do not have that luxury in the Army because we are the biggest branch. I mean, we are 550,000 strong with an attrition rate. I don't even know what the attrition rate is like yearly, like people getting out. But I mean, our average mission is between 60 and 80,000 a year. That is a big
Wow.
number considering there's only
Yeah.
about 1,200 recruiting stations in the Army. That is a big number. So we just we need more bodies.
Yep. You kind of touched on changing requirements. Now let's dive a little bit more into that. Now, do you, through the years of being a recruiter, have you seen them lower standards, raise standards, keep standards the same? I mean, or does it change year to year? I mean, based on if they're not getting enough numbers, do they start lowering standards to get more numbers, or how does all that whole thing work?
The best way I can describe the Army is a very large organization and it does not change quickly and it cannot change quickly. And it is more reactive than proactive. But I will tell you, if you think about it like a slinky, right? A slinky opens up.
Might have lost you there, brother. Oh, we lost Jeff for a second. Hopefully, we'll gain him back. It might have lost a little bit of some connection. He's on his cell phone, so let's hope he comes back on. All right. If not, we might have to resume this shortly. Let's see. I'm going to take him off for a second, give him a second to come back on. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. Sorry, guys, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll get him back on.
Am I back?
All right, he's back. All right, sorry, man.
All right, I apologize.
We lost you.
So where'd I leave off?
We're talking about slinkies. We're talking about slinky.
Okay,
the slinky effect.
All right, the slinky effect. Yes. So this will change in regards to the test, to the type like a GED or something like that. But the medical standards, they are not going to change, and the law violation standards do not change. And this is a huge problem because any type of drug charge, basically regardless of disposition, disqualifies you from military service. Now, from the Army, let me not say military, from the Army. So let me give you an example. If you have an 18-year-old young man who gets caught smoking a joint in Denver, Colorado, they may give them a civil citation. No arrest, nothing. They just gave them a citation. They're disqualified from joining the military. Let me not say military. They're disqualified regardless. So there is some things that definitely need to change. But I would say from today, looking at when I joined, the standards are tighter. I mean, they're tightening this is not the Army. An issue that we have in the Army is our image, right? People think of the 60s and 70s, like, oh, people don't have any other options. They're going to join. That is entirely not the case. And if I will just do a little plug for the Army here, out of all high school graduates, people in the Army or the military in general are in the top 25% of earners in the country. And college graduates, military members, are in the top 25% of earnings. So it is not your granddaddy's Army anymore. We are an extremely competitive workforce. So, but yeah, as far as standards changing, no, I would say the people joining today are infinitely more qualified than just the general member of the public.
That's good. That's good to hear, man. I mean, because there's a lot of rumor mills going on, especially in the veteran community, especially some of the old timers. They're always talking about how lax the military is today, and the standards are lowering, and they're not the same fighting force, and all this stuff that you constantly hear. But starting on this podcast and doing this podcast and having interviews. I actually have a interview with a Marine veteran who works in the junior ROTC, and he's the same thing, man. He's raving about the kids today and saying there's a big misconception about these children today, and about them being lazy and all this stuff. And he said, I work with these kids every day, and I'm here to tell you, these kids are a lot smarter than a lot of us were back in the day due to technology and the things that they have access to that we didn't.
Yeah, the challenges for us come in, I would say, the extremes, okay, are getting wider. And when I say extremes, I mean the really smart kids.
Part.
You've got a higher, yep, and then the bottom. But the main issue we run into in qualifying people for the military, and this is a trend, is weight standards. I mean, you have to meet the height and weight standards prior to joining, and kids these days just aren't getting as much exercise, and they're bigger. But then you have on the extremes, I mean, when you look at athletes, they're doing more better things now than they ever have. So that's why I say at the extremes. But I will tell you about, don't quote me on this number, but there's, out of the entire population of America, 330 some million, I think about 3% are qualified for military service, meaning holistically, right? Because 35 is the cutoff. Right. So take everybody out there. You got to pass height and weight. You got to meet the physical requirements, and you got to meet the mental requirements. So we have a very small pool that we are fishing in to begin with. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, especially with the way food is and stuff this day and age, all the additives and the stuff that's in them. I mean, there's a lot more diabetic folks and stuff like that because of all the sugars in our food. So I do imagine that is a big concern. So I guess in the Army, you guys make them have to reach their weight and height standard before they actually join. Because in the Marine Corps, and this is only when I joined back in 2000. They let me join, and I guess I wasn't exactly to their height and weight standards. So what they did is made me a diet recruit. And so I got fucking, told what I could and couldn't eat at the end of my, when I was done eating. And so they gave me the opportunity to go there. Now, and if you were struggling and you couldn't, and you weren't making the weights and you were having issues doing push-ups, pull-ups or something like that, they'd send you to a whole other platoon, which was called PCP, which was like a physical conditioning platoon or something like that, where they just basically get them guys in shape and ready to go. So I guess in the Army, you guys are a little bit stricter on that part, and you make them already have to be at the weight and height, or can they be within a certain range? And you're like, well, in boot camp, they're going to end up losing like 10 pounds probably.
So again, going with the different ways that the branch, and I'm just speculating here, but that makes sense to me on the Marine Corps side, because again, they don't get credit for that contract until the end. So by the end, you had to meet the requirements. So the Marines, being a smaller force with a smaller mission, they can take a more holistic view. Like one individual Marine carries more weight, I guess you'd say, because you have a smaller force. So percentage wise, one person is bigger. It probably counts for a percentage. Whereas in the Army, we have to make sure that they meet the requirements prior to them leaving. So I would imagine that is the main difference with the Marine Corps, because it's just a more holistic approach. Like the Army is just too big of an organization to just it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it would be very difficult.
Yeah, I bet. Now, after you got done with recruiting, I mean, so you did recruiting pretty much for the last whole part of your whole career, right? I mean, you were embedded in the whole. So how many years was it in total that you actually did recruiting?
Just over 10.
Wow.
Just over 10. Yeah.
Wow. So you got to learn a lot about everything, and I'm sure being a recruiter, you learn a lot about not just, you know, you learn lots of levels of the government and everything else. I'm sure you kind of get privy to a little bit of some background information that a lot of us don't aren't privy to.
I I would just say I wouldn't say I would say it's more on a marketing side and more of a research side and just
Oh, we lost him again, guys. I think he's on his cell phone, so he might be having some technical difficulties. So hopefully we'll bring him back. Um, so sorry about that, guys. But hopefully we'll give him a little bit of some time. Good time to say. I hope everybody out there is having a great day so far. If you're not, man, make it better. There's always a number out there you can call 988 and you press 1 if you're struggling with any kind of mental health issues or anything like that. All right, looks like he's back on. We'll go ahead and bring him back in.
yeah, I don't know why it just kicked me out, man. It sent me a message saying that my storage was full. You can edit this out, right?
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I usually just kind of roll with it, so it's all good, man. Once you start editing it, it gets really choppy. So I kind of just roll with it. So when you jumped off, I just kind of talked a little bit more.
Okay,
So
so
it's all good.
let's
We'll go
let me.
right back.
I'll go right back in on the different focuses. Okay, so I would say
Sure.
a detailed recruiter has a different focus than a station commander, which has a different focus. You know what I'm saying? Than a first sergeant. But yes, you learn. That's the one thing I wish in recruiting that would improve, and it's I say communication. That's blah blah. You know, the communication. Of course, everybody can communicate better, but I mean, just I wish I could pass the knowledge and understanding and experience down as running a company to the recruiter to give them the why. As a station commander and a first sergeant, I was a big believer in let me tell these people why. This is why you are doing this. You may not see it. You may not think this is going to come to fruition, but it will if you would just trust me and trust the process to show you kind of the why behind it. That's the big thing. So I wouldn't say I'm more privy to more information than someone in the public would be, other than kind of how we go about things and do things. But that just comes from experience of doing it and the knowledge and just how deep into the weeds you get on doing market analysis, and then kind of how we are missioned, because we take into account, we dissect zip codes, right? Recruiting station boundaries are by zip codes. You will have assigned zip codes, you will have assigned schools. I have historic information of how many contracts said school has produced, how many the zip code has produced, and where's the hotspots in those zip codes to go to, and things of that nature. And then it just increases. That's a recruiting station. Then you have a company. Then you have a battalion and a brigade, and so on and so forth. So it's really just getting into the weeds and dissecting that information and the how to on the marketing side, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it does. So let's go ahead and switch it up now. Now, when you got out of the
Mm-hmm.
army, what did you do, man? I mean, you retired. Uh, are you just enjoying retirement? What did you do with yourself, or what are you
So
doing with yourself?
yeah, so I'll kind of get into that. I am a small business owner. I own an apparel company. I own Apex Predator Outfitters, and that has been an evolution in and of itself. I had an idea when I retired that this was something I wanted to do, and I'll tell you why. I would I had an extremely difficult time finding T-shirts that I liked. All right. And when I say that I liked, I meant that look good and that fit well. And this was just for before I even had the business. This is a couple of years before I retired. My issue was I'm not going to put any company names out there, but I'm a big sports fan, and I would order t-shirts and they would be just terrible. They wouldn't fit right. And then I would wash them a couple times. The designs would fade. And I was like, man, this is terrible. But the main thing I wanted was the fit. So I went on a mission in life. I was like, there's got to be a better way to find a shirt, you know what I'm saying, that is just comfortable and fits right, because I'm tired of spending this money and it's not working. So what I did was I started doing research on blank t-shirts, and I got on a couple of websites, and I went through no less than 50 blank t-shirts to find one that I was like, okay, dude, this is good. I mean, I ordered them. 40 of them I could just cast aside right then. I'm like, they don't feel good, they don't fit right. Then when I wash them, they shrink. And then I was kind of down to 10. And then I decided on the one. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to wear. Well, I was just wearing blank t-shirts around, and I'm like, man, I kind of like to put something on it. And I'm not a big fan of it, like extensive, colorful designs. I personally don't like the front left chest thing and then something on the back of the shirt. I kind of like it on the front of the shirt. So again, this was before the business side even. So I was just doing research on, okay, how can I put something on this shirt myself? So I went down the avenue of the press machine, you know what I'm saying? And then you get the stuff you
Yeah,
can
I did.
order.
I
It's
did
called
it. I
a
did it myself.
transfer.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, after I went through that process for a while, I said, look, this ain't gonna cut it, because I couldn't get it where they'd come out right. I'd wash them and it would fade. And it was at that point I was watching a documentary on this. I'm getting ready to retire. I was watching a documentary on Discovery Channel or something, and it was a show on apex predators. And I said, man, that is a catchy name. And I was like, because I was thinking about it, being in the military, people think apex.
Oh, we lost him again, guys. Sorry about that. He is on his cell phone, so he's gonna have some issues here and there. I think we'll give him a couple seconds to come back in, and he's back.
I don't know why. I do not know why this keeps cutting out. But anyway, I know right where I left off. So I was
It's all
thinking
good.
apex predators top. Yeah, I was thinking apex predators top of the food chain. I was like, man, that would be a very good name for a company, because it kind of works on two levels. When you have, being in the military, you want to be the best, you want to excel at what you do, but it not only describes the mentality of the brand, but it's the people that are wearing the brand, because it doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a cellist or you're a pianist or you're a whatever you do. Anybody worth their weight is going to want to be the best at what they do. So I figured it worked. Initially, the tagline of the company was going to be Apex Predator Outfitters made different, or top of the food chain. But as my wife saw that I was going through all of these things with the company, like the t-shirts and trying to find everything to get it just right and all of that, she was like, man, dude, I made her a shirt. She was like, man, these are made different. And it just clicked in my head. I was like, you know what? That is going to be it. Apex Predator Outfitters made different. Then it not only spoke to the people wearing the shirts, but it spoke to the company too. So that's kind of how it came to fruition. So I had the blank shirts, right? So we had that problem solved. Then I went into, okay, how am I going to get designs on the shirts? I elected to go with screen printing, but not all screen printers are created equal, and not all inks that go into the shirts are created equal too. So I live in Panama City,
Right.
Florida. I went through all six. There are 6 screen printers in Panama City, Florida, and I went through all of them, and I couldn't find one that was like what I wanted. But luckily, as I branched out a little bit, there's a place in Tallahassee, which is 100 miles up the road. I called, they went in, and we did everything. So and it just, that's, they put together a really good product. So when I talk about my brand and things, I'll never use the term quality, because what you think is quality may not be what I think is quality.
Right.
Like if you go to LA or them big t-shirts, that's quality to them. You know what I'm saying? You know, but to somebody else, that may not be quality. But I have the best for that I prefer. And, you know, I've been in business almost a year, done hundreds of orders, have not had one return. Not one person has returned a shirt saying, I don't like it. So that's kind of, that's good to me.
That is great, man. I mean, customers are always picky and stuff like that. So it is a good thing when you're not hearing any negative feedback. And I mean, clothing's tricky,
No,
man.
yeah,
I've done it too. I actually went in business with my wife. We started making shirts. We made shoes. We got huge, man. But you catch these people like we have these customers like this one lady. She said she's allergic to women shirts. And I'm thinking, are women's shirts made differently than men's shirts? I mean, like different cloth or something. But I mean, so you just got to entertain some of these crazy requests that come through, man. But it is kind of funny, and I mean, people get really peculiar about their shirts, and I mean, I kind of do too. I don't like wearing those really thick, thick ones. I'm a bigger dude, so I like to kind of keep it like light and
right.
where they can breathe a little bit, and I'm not sweating my balls off. But I know,
No,
man, it
yeah,
is tricky.
exactly. Well, again,
Customers too. How long you guys been doing this now?
yeah, yeah, it's been about a year. I'm approaching the first year. I think we opened, the website launched June 18th of last year, is sticking in my head, that we launched. So, we're pushing our first year. We have some, we have some affiliate programs in place, like where I met you with Tackle 22 Fishing. I'm not going to give out anybody any affiliate codes because I don't want to play favorites or anything, but kind
Sure.
of my main thing to start this was I wanted to, clearly I wanted to make a couple bucks, but that wasn't the main focus. The main focus was kind of to give back on, the chair.
Oh, we lost them again, guys. It's okay. It's all right. We just keep on rocking, man. Adapt and overcome. That's how we do. I apologize though for the inconvenience, but we're gonna keep on rolling. That's how we
Yeah, we're
do.
back. I don't know why it keeps cutting
Yep.
out, but like
It's
I
all
said,
good,
I'll
man.
just keep rolling. My
Yep,
main
that's
thing
all we
was
can
like
do.
kind of giving back. Yeah. Um, but in a way that I could give back to some organizations, because I'm retired. I'm 100% disabled. My wife's in the Navy. We're fine. But my goal is by the end of year 2 to have 10 charities to which we are donating all the funds to. Right now, we have a breast cancer awareness shirt that anything we make off that goes to breast cancer awareness. And then I wanted a veterans charity that was next. So I partnered with Tackle 22 Fishing, which they want to stop veteran suicide by taking vets on fishing trips. And I thought
Yeah.
that was an extremely unique approach to that, because you never know, that phone call to go on a fishing trip that could really save somebody's life, because you never know what someone is going through at any point in time. And I had fished a couple of their tournaments last year, and then I decided to go all in with them. So we have a partnership shirt. They get the lion's share of that. The only thing I really get on that is just production costs, so I can keep making it. So I've teamed up with them, and then I have a smaller affiliate deal with a local guy down here, a tournament director. His name's Chad Bailey. The Size Matters Fishing. I do a shirt with him. And then I have another one. You may have heard of this guy. He's big on social media. He's his name is Mandatory Fun Day.
Hmm.
Have you heard of him or seen him?
I don't think so. No.
But he's got a big following, 500 or 600,000. He's a active duty lieutenant, prior enlisted guy, and he has a unique sense of humor where he makes light of things in the army. You know what I'm saying? Like, he does little
Yeah.
skits, and he's a
Cool.
good dude. So I have a affiliate deal with him. So it's just trying to grow, just trying to grow right now. But like I
That's
said, I
great.
think our next charity is going to be autism. I think autism is going to be our next charity shirt coming out. But I got to get some sales so I can make some money so I can do the giveaway stuff. Cause it's, you were in the business a little bit, overhead costs high. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely, man.
I run it. The way I do inventory is I have a fulfillment center. So they do my printing, but they also ship it out. So when I'm ordering things, I've got 5,000 products in stock. So I have to keep that, they want their money up front. So, but it is what it is. But I mean, we're going to keep on going and see what happens.
Well, it's great, man. For many reasons. One, it's a veteran-owned business, and two, you're bringing in other veterans and you're kind of helping them out as well as it's like a big help out, man. I mean, that's what I love about the veteran community. Is after we're all done with our, you know, our contracts and stuff, when we get out and we all start looking to do stuff and we start teaming up with other veterans, some great things come out of it, man. I mean, that's one thing I've actually enjoyed about the social media platforms is reuniting and connecting with all the veterans out there. And I mean, my gosh, these type of things, it's free it's free marketing. It's, we're here, we're helping each other out here. I have you on the show. We're going to put your, website out there. I'm trying to get, you're on. People that watch you, they see me, they're like, oh, that's a pretty cool little show. So it's like a big, overall helping. And I love it, man. I mean, anytime I come across
Yeah.
veterans and they're all doing stuff and then we try to help each other out, great things come out of it.
Yeah. And especially, like to go back on the, the tackle 22 piece, you know what I'm saying? Like that's an all volunteer thing. You know what I'm saying? They're just volunteering. They go out
Yeah,
on
it's a
all these trips.
nonprofit.
I'm
Yeah,
a
it's a nonprofit organization. Yeah, man. I mean, what they're doing over there is something amazing. It's really cool. I've seen them expand on. There's fishing now. There's hunting. It's there's great things. A lot of veterans love to go out and do these things, and fishing is very therapeutic if you haven't really
yeah.
done it. So
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
then,
it's great.
yeah, well, you had mentioned the networking aspect, but the way I see it is so, we are both kind of affiliated with them. Now we're talking about that on this podcast. You know, somebody could be in a very bad dark spot right now watching this podcast and they, tackle 22 and they go over there and check it out. They link up with them. Oh, what? So that's the beauty of it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, helping other veterans out. So
Yeah. And the more that we talk about these kind of things too, it brings awareness and oh, there's that out there. I could go fishing with veterans. Fucking that's cool as shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
The thing is, if we don't talk about stuff, we don't highlight it, it's never going to be found out or never people don't know. And there's a lot of times I find things out and it's been years and years and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that existed because someone just happened to say something. So um, you know, veterans out there, don't be afraid to reach out and talk to your buddies and say, hey man, I heard there's this going on over here and stuff like that. And it just things grow from there, man. I mean, there's some really cool things. I just talked to um, Army veteran yesterday, and his name's Sean. They're doing a big convoy, a 22-mile convoy at 22 miles per hour, from one city to another city, and then they're going to have a huge barbecue at the end. Those kind of things are really cool, man. And a lot of people don't realize those type of things are happening all over the states. It's just that's why I'm trying to, I kind of started this podcast too, is to get these veterans, word and what they're doing out there, man. There's so many great stories. There's so many great things that our veterans are doing, not just that they did it on the battlefield or while they were in uniform, but they're still continuing today to kind of, you know, lead the way and try to, keep everybody sane. And it's really great, man. I love the community that I have found on like TikTok and some of those places.
well, not only that, we can, the dispelling rumors portion or to help people. So, for example, I would I'm not tooting my own horn, but I would consider myself a subject matter expert on recruiting for the Army. You know what I'm saying? So people
Right.
listening to this pod, my name is Jeff Frazier. It's right there. I'm on all the social medias. My company, Apex Predator Outfitters, I'm on all the social medias. If you're dealing with a recruiter for your kid and you have a question, you can reach out to me and I will tell you if they're full of crap or not full of crap. 9 times out of 10, though, the information that recruiter is giving you, they are not full of crap. You just don't want to hear it. I mean, it's the recruiter cannot make someone
Right.
qualified. They may know they're disqualified, but they may not be able to explain to you why. Just like if you were to, I've had multiple people come up to me that their kid got a ticket for a drug charge and they don't understand that, look, dude, that is disqualifying. Or the other big one is, let's say you have a criminal charge, right? Let's say you have a criminal charge that you were charged with a felony, okay? And then you pleaded it down, the DA pleaded it down, right? And they knocked it down to a misdemeanor. Okay, cool. And you come into the recruiting office and say, hey, and I ask you ever been arrested or anything? Yeah, I was arrested for this, but I didn't get charged. I did this XYZ. I did this program, so I've only got a misdemeanor. Hey, guy or gal, in the eyes of the Army, if you took a deal, that means you said you did it and you were on the hook for that felony. You have a felony in the eyes of the Army. And people don't seem to understand that. Oh, no, I don't. They said it was sealed. Blah, blah. Hey, guy, we're not the state. The state seals stuff. We are the federal government. We are going to run your prints through the FBI, and we are going to get that. Once you have that, I am sorry. If you took a deal, and maybe the Army's thinking on that is not correct when they say, oh, well, you pled guilty to something, so you must have done it. Maybe that's not accurate, or maybe that's not correct, or whatever, but that is the way it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Man, I mean, here's another thing. Is there still like incentives, like cash incentives and stuff like
Of
that to
course.
to
Oh,
to sign up?
yes. So there is,
Yeah.
yes,
Is it just based on MOSs or something like that?
it's based on a variety of things. So yes and no. There are incentives, right? So let me give you an example, because people come in, oh, I want this job and I want a bonus. Okay, what job do you want? Oh, I want a helicopter mechanic. Hey, look, guy, I may not be able to get you a bonus with that job. The bonus is the job. But if you come in and say you want 13 Bravo or something, there may be some cash with that. Now, that being said, that's not all inclusive. Maybe that helicopter mechanic job does have a bonus. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, if the bonus is available, we are going to tell you about the bonus. Okay. There is no incentive for the recruiter not to tell you or not to give it to you. It's not like they get a portion. If it's there, you get it. If it's not, you won't. But a lot of the bonuses are tagged to, I'm not going to say a lot. Some of them are tagged to ship out date. They call it a quick ship bonus. Okay. So if you can leave in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll give you this bonus. And the reason being is, every job that the Army, anyway, we operate on the it's called the ARFRGen model, Army Force Generation, right? Most of these jobs, if not all of these jobs that we are selecting for you, were bought and paid for and planned 3 years ago. It's already paid for. So that means if this class starting May 1st has 100 training seats available and this was paid for, they're not going to lower that number. If they've only got 90, they're going to do a little quick math. Okay, dude, we need 10 more people. We've already paid $300,000 for this, so we're going to tag a bonus of 30,000 so we don't lose any more. Because if that class only has 90 people, it's still going to start at that time. That would mess everything up. So yeah, so with bonuses, I don't know if they're still doing student loan repayment. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but that is another option that'll come with the job. So bonuses are they're a thing, yes, but there's all different reasons for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you throw a little bit of money at some kid around 18, 19 years old, you know, it's a lot of money for them at that time, man. So, I mean,
No, that's true. But
incentives
then
always. What's
I
that?
was going to say, I've had people turn down $50,000 to take to take a job. I've had people turn down
Yeah.
a $50,000 enlistment bonus on this job to take this other job. So, but that's
I
another
guess
thing I
money
want to get
doesn't
into.
always talk.
No, that's true. Well, that's another thing I want to get into with the Army, and I'm not saying anything bad about the other services, but we are the only job that we are the only branch that you can pick your job and it will be in your contract. In your enlistment contract, it will tell you you are going to do this job, and that is huge. And the reason we're able to do that is because there's such a diversity of people and such a diversity of jobs. Now, the flip side of that is if you come in and I'm your recruiter and you're like, I want to join the Army and I want to be a 68 whiskey, which is a medic, a combat medic. I can't give you something I don't have. If that job is not available, meaning all those training seats are filled, like for the foreseeable future, that job's not going to be available. So I can guarantee your job, but I can't guarantee you what jobs will be available when it's that time. So people need to take that, as well. You need to identify that. I cannot give you something I don't have. I wish I could, but I can't. But usually we get a pretty thorough list out there of what's all available, and then we can kind of help you do the research. And like you said, you alluded to earlier, can you tell somebody they're not going to make it? No, but what I can do is I can evaluate someone and try to give them the best advice on which job I think they would excel at, because I kind of know about the jobs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So, what did you like being a recruiter?
I did. I mean, it has its challenges and its ups and downs. It would depend. It holistically depends on the individual, and when I say that, it's extremely challenging to be a good recruiter. Okay. You need to have that kind of gift of gab. You need to be able to think pretty quick on your feet. If you like to be challenged and you think of things as a challenge, then you will like recruiting, because people always have reasons why they don't want to join or why they can't join. And it's just all about cracking that code to get them to join. I don't want to say that in a bad way, but it's like a game. You know what I mean? To get them to commit to joining the Army.
Right.
So it is a challenge because there is no ceiling. They always want more, 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 more. So you can, but it is difficult to be a good recruiter. And I like to think I was a decent recruiter. But yeah, if you like that challenge of every day, it's something new, like just crazy things, wild things. It'll keep you on your toes. If you like something different every day, it's a good job. But some people absolutely hate it.
Yeah. Did you ever have any recruits or whatever come back to you guys afterwards and like thank you or say, "What the fuck, man? What did you
All of the
do?"
above. All of the above. We've had recruits, we get letters from basic training saying, "Hey, this sucks. What'd you get me into?" Or, they're in basic training. "Hey, I love this." I mean, we have people come back, but when they come back, like for the hometown recruiting program, they're if I was your recruiter and I put you in and you thought you got a bad deal and you didn't like it and you come back on hometown recruiting, you got to realize I'm a non-commissioned officer and you're a private. You know what I'm saying? There's not really, it's too late. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I would say that
Yeah.
was a rarity. That was a rarity. It was more, hey, this isn't so bad. I still keep in contact with the first person I ever put in the Army. His name's DJ. He's a sergeant first class now. He's an E7.
Oh,
But the
nice.
first person I put in, he bought a T-shirt off me a couple months ago. So
Oh, that's
pretty
cool,
cool.
man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. So you mentioned that the Army, puts in the contract what their jobs are. So do you guys not do open contracts?
No, there is the only thing that would look like an open contract in the Army is we have we have a program. God, it's been a while. Puerto Rico does this a lot. We have a program that is geared towards non-English speakers. Okay, so they score between a certain range on the ASVAB, and then they take this test, the ECLT, which is the English, basically to see how well they understand it. They have to understand it within a range, and
Comprehend
then
at least, yeah.
yeah, and so what happens is they join and they go to I think out there in California, like to Monterey, they go out there. And they go to school, like English school, right? And then once they get done with that, they
Oh
take
shit.
the job again, and then they get to choose their job from the list of what they qualify for. So that's really kind of the only semblance we have of an open contract. But just for a normal person coming in off the street, your job is going to be determined on your physical and mental capacity, right? You have to score a certain, the jobs. So inside we have the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. So it's not a test; it's a series of tests. And within it, there's like 7 different scores, general, technical, things like that. And you get scores in each of those. And the jobs will have certain qualifications within those scores. So it will pull it over. So you qualify for this. Then it will look through your physical qualifications. For example, if you are red and green colorblind, you can't join the Army as infantry because our maps are red and green. That would not serve you very well. So there is some quirks. If you want to be a crew chief on a helicopter, you need to have a certain vision requirement. So there's some little quirky things in there, but all of that should be lined out before you go sign the contract.
So yeah, you guys will do waivers and stuff like that. I mean, do they have waivers where they'll allow things to go through?
So on
So I know
the
they do ASVAB waivers sometimes.
Well, so we wouldn't call. Okay, so we wouldn't call that. Wouldn't be for us. That would not be a waiver. What we would do is we would submit what's called an ETP. An ETP is an exception to policy. So if the policy says you need to have a 95 GM score for job XYZ and you have a 93, I would submit it's called a line point exception. I would request 2 points in an exception for you to get that job. Now, the likelihood of that getting approved or not, well, that's going to depend on, how many training seats the Army's got. Do they need somebody in that job? Like, is that coming up? You know what I mean? Then you may be more favorable to get that
Yeah.
exception. They may say, no, there is no exception. For example, like you want to go to be an infantry, like an airborne ranger, right? You need a 110 GT score. There is a very high likelihood that they are not going to entertain a GT point exception to put you in that job because that is a high demand type thing. As far as when the waivers come in more like, we do have the medical waivers of all. That could be for anything, even a little, that could be for anything. But the waivers, when I hear waiver, I more think geared toward law violations. That's what I think. You know what I'm saying? Like, because even if you were to, let's say
Right.
you were walking down the street and and somebody got killed 2 miles away and they see you and they pick you up and they arrest you and take you downtown, but it turns out you're not the right person, right? So you were just at the wrong place at the wrong time and they let you go, no charges. Okay. You would still need what we call a suitability review. That would still need to, it's basically a waiver. You know what I'm saying? So, but they call it a
Right.
suitability review. So there's, a couple different aspects on the waiver side that can get, a little challenging. But, there is an exception to policy for a lot of things. There's waivers for certain things, other things not. So, but that's kind of a little how that process works. And I tell you what, medical waivers take forever to come back. I'm talking months, like 30, 60 days to get a medical waiver back. And like a moral waiver, that could take a long time too. So it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, you're sitting there waiting for some doctor to review some paperwork and stuff like that, like some busy doctor who's, probably overbooked on appointments, and here they are having to go through some paperwork.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we
So,
Well, just real quick, we employ doctors at the
Yeah.
USAREC headquarters to go through those waivers, but just the sheer amount of them they get is just when they get to them. And some of them may be 80, 90, 100 pages. I've sent med reads, which is what we call it. That, like, if you tell me you have something physically wrong, I give the doctor a heads up. I submit it. They look at it. They say, yes, send them, or we need more documentation, or no, don't send them. But I mean, some of those get 200 pages long.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
yeah.
All right, Jeff. Well, man, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I don't know if there's anything that you want to say before we get off, or any information you want to share. I want everybody to go and check out your website, which is apexpredators.com, and he's on orders over $70. So go check that out, guys. Go order yourself a shirt. I saw there's hats, hoodies. Is that pretty much what you got? Hats, hoodies, and
Yeah,
for
t-shirts.
men and women?
We do have women's line. Yep.
Yep. What about children? Is it just or is this adults?
Yep, we got kids shirts. We got 5 shirts that are our best designs that we in kids sizes. So yeah, we're expanding every day. So if you don't see something you like, come back in a month or two, and we'll have probably in the next 45 days. Our hat selection is going to go from 4 to about 30. So that's in the works right now. We're still growing.
Wow. Yeah. You're busy, huh? You guys been pretty busy. You got
Go ahead.
No, sorry. You go ahead, man. I think we got cut
Oh,
off
I was just gonna, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I had a good time. You want me to come back on? Yeah. Let me know. So that's all I would say.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to have you back on. I know I'm going to try to put together some kind of a veteran show for Veterans Day. Definitely want to get a good, range of all the different branches, and have like a big show and a big celebration on Veterans Day. I think it would be kind of fun. So stand by. Yeah. Maybe you'll be getting an invitation for that. And if you can, just go ahead and I'm going to send you back into the waiting room. And if you could just hold tight there, I'll be joining you shortly. But hey, once again, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time. Man, it's been a pleasure.
Me too.
All right. Thanks, brother. All right, friends and fam, that wraps up another great interview. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And hey, sometimes you go through a little bit of technical difficulties, but hey, when you're in the military and from a Marine standpoint, from a Marine point of view, we adapt and we overcome. So I appreciate you guys all once again for tuning in and watching Every Day is a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Take care.